My name is Teresa Ellington, and I'm 32 years old. On paper, my life makes sense. I'm a project manager at a marketing firm in Manhattan. I have a tiny one-bedroom apartment that costs too much, a boss who loves quick favors at 8 p.m., and a metal filing cabinet that doubles as my nightstand. I buy my own candles on sale and tell myself that counts as self-care. But for the past 5 years, Christmas hasn't belonged to me. It's belonged to my brother Derek. More specifically, to Derek's plans, and Derek's children, and Derek's emergencies that always seemed to involve him somewhere far away on a business trip while I wrapped presents with 2 kids who weren't mine. This year was supposed to be different. I'd told him in October, in November, in early December. Derek, I love Sophie and Cameron, but I can't keep rearranging my life around your schedule. You promised last year was the last time. He'd agreed. He always agreed. Derek was very good at agreeing to things he had no intention of doing, which is why, on December 23rd, I wasn't even surprised when I opened my apartment door to find him standing there with 2 oversized duffel bags and a forced smile. "Teresa, you're a lifesaver," he said, already stepping inside as if my agreement was a formality, not a question. His expensive black coat still smelled like cold air and cologne. "Seriously, I owe you big time." Sophie and Cameron stood behind him, half hidden by the bags. Sophie, 10 years old, held the handle of a rolling suitcase, her shoulders slumped. 7-year-old Cameron clutched a superhero backpack to his chest. They looked like kids who had learned that hope was optional. I crossed my arms and blocked the rest of the doorway. "You said you'd be back on Christmas Eve this time," I reminded him. My voice came out tighter than I'd planned. "The kids deserve to wake up in their own home on Christmas morning, Derek." He checked his watch. No, not a watch. A Tag Heuer he'd bought after his big promotion last year. The same promotion everyone applauded at Thanksgiving while Mom lectured me about following Derek's example. "The Westbridge account is massive, Tess," he said. He only called me Tess when he wanted something. "Career-defining. This could make me partner." "That's funny," I said quietly, stepping aside just enough for the kids to wheel their stuff in. "Because Uncle Lawrence mentioned seeing you at the Aspen Lodge last Christmas, with someone who wasn't Sophie and Cameron." For a heartbeat, his smile faltered. Just a flicker, a tiny crack in the perfect older brother mask. Then it was back, smooth as glass. "Lawrence is confused," Derek said lightly. "Probably had too many whiskey sours. You know how he gets after a few drinks." Sophie tugged her suitcase over the lip of my hardwood floor. The wheels squeaked, loud in the small space. "We brought our own presents this year, Aunt Teresa," she mumbled. "Dad said we shouldn't expect you to buy us stuff." Something in my chest pinched. "Smart girl," I said, forcing a smile as I helped Cameron wrestle his superhero backpack off his shoulders. "How long this time, Derek?" "Back on the 26th, he said instantly. "Promise." He was already backing toward the elevator, car keys jingling like a soundtrack to his escape. "Kids, behave for Aunt Teresa. Mind your manners." "Daddy, you promised we'd make gingerbread houses together," Cameron called after him, voice cracking. "With M&Ms and everything." "Next year, buddy, I swear." The elevator doors slid shut on Derek's wave. I watched the numbers descend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just like every year, they carried him down and away from his responsibilities while I stood there holding what he left behind. My neighbor Gloria's door creaked open across the hall. She peered out, silver reading glasses perched on her nose, a floral apron tied around her waist. "Another Christmas with the little ones?" she asked, eyebrows lifting. Not judgmental, just knowing. "Every year like clockwork," I sighed, ushering the kids inside. "That man." Gloria shook her head, her pearl earrings swaying. "My Robert would never. Have you talked to your mother about this?" "Mom thinks Derek walks on water," I muttered. "Career-focused, providing for his family." I lowered my voice as the kids shuffled past me, their small frames making my hallway look enormous. "She doesn't know he dumps them here every Christmas while he goes skiing with his girlfriend." "Skiing with his girlfriend," Sophie repeated softly, like she was reciting the weather. Gloria and I exchanged a quick, sharp look. My stomach dropped. I turned back to Sophie, kneeling so we were eye level. The tile was cold against my knees. "Sophie, sweetheart, what did you say?" She twisted a strand of brown hair around her finger, a nervous habit she'd picked up after the divorce 2 years ago. "I found pictures on his phone last week," she whispered. "He told me not to tell anyone, or Santa wouldn't come. He said Santa has a special list for kids who can't keep secrets." There it was. The thing my gut had been screaming at me for years, finally spoken out loud by a girl who still believed in Santa, but already understood betrayal. How about hot cocoa? Gloria said quickly, voice too bright. I've got those mini marshmallows you like, the colored ones shaped like snowmen. Cameron's eyes lit up, grateful for the distraction. Sophie nodded, but her face stayed tight. Go with Mrs. Gloria, I told them. I'll bring your bags in. They scampered towards Gloria's apartment. When the door closed behind them, my shoulders sagged. Derek wasn't just ditching his kids. He was weaponizing Christmas. Hours later, after hot cocoa, a thrown-together dinner, and an overexcited viewing of Home Alone, I tucked them into my tiny spare bedroom. Sophie clutched a worn, stuffed penguin, Mr. Flippers. Cameron hugged his Captain America pillow like a shield. Night, Aunt Teresa, Sophie said softly. Good night, honey. I brushed hair from her forehead. I love you. Love you too. The door clicked shut behind me, and for a moment, the apartment felt unnaturally quiet. The Christmas tree lights blinked in the dark living room, tiny bursts of color against the window. Outside, the city glowed like it was celebrating something I wasn't invited to. I sank onto the couch and called my best friend Vanessa. The phone rang twice before she picked up, the hum of her dishwasher loud in the background. He's doing it again, I said by way of hello. My voice sounded flat in my own ears. Every single Christmas, Van. And now the kids know he's lying. I'm furious. It's not just about your plans anymore, she said. Didn't you have that trip to Charleston booked? I canceled it, I said, staring at the blinking lights. Each flash felt like a tally mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Christmases. The kids are old enough now to understand they're being abandoned during the holidays. What does Amanda say? Vanessa asked, meaning Derek's ex-wife. She's spending Christmas with her new husband's family in London, I said. Derek convinced her he was planning this big father-children bonding Christmas. Hot cocoa by the fire, sledding, the whole Hallmark movie thing. So she doesn't know either. There was a clatter on Vanessa's end, then the sound of a cupboard closing. When she spoke again, her voice was harder. This is beyond selfish, Tess. This is calculated. I watched the tree lights blink on and off, on and off. Sophie mentioned a girlfriend named Tiffany, I said. I think he's at some resort with her right now, while everyone believes he's working on the Westbridge account. Have you considered saying no next time? Vanessa asked. Like, actually refusing and seeing what he does? That's what he's counting on, I said quietly, that I care too much about them to say no. What am I supposed to do? Leave them at his empty house? Let them wake up alone? Vanessa was silent for a moment, the kind of silence that meant she was choosing her words carefully. You know my cousin works for family services in the Bronx, she said finally. This might qualify as neglect, Tess. If he's regularly dumping his kids without proper arrangements while lying to everyone. I don't want to cause trouble, I started. A soft sound interrupted me, a sniffle from the hallway. I turned. Sophie, is that you? She stood there in her purple pajamas, Mr. Flippers clutched to her chest. Her eyes were red, cheeks blotchy. Dad promised this was the last time, she said. Her voice was small, but every word landed like a stone. He said next Christmas would be different. He said he'd take us to see the Rockettes and everything. My heart cracked. Come here, sweetie. I patted the couch beside me and pulled the throw blanket over both of us when she sat down. Her shoulders shook. He always says that, she whispered, but then he leaves again, every single time. I wrapped my arms around her, feeling how tiny she still was, how heavy her sobs were. On the phone, Vanessa was quiet. She didn't need to say anything. We both knew we'd crossed an invisible line. We weren't talking about inconvenience anymore. We were talking about damage. Van, I said, my voice steadier than I felt as I held my niece tighter. I need to know more about those family services. Everything you can tell me. Because in that moment, with a 10-year-old crying into my shoulder under the glow of cheap Christmas lights, something inside me hardened. Derek had turned my kindness into his escape route. And this was the last year he was going to get away with it. The next morning, my apartment smelled like microwaved waffles and cinnamon sugar chaos. Cameron was curled up on the couch, eyes glued to Home Alone for what had to be the 100th time, laughing so hard at the paint can scene that he nearly spilled his orange juice. Sophie sat cross-legged on the floor, half watching, half zoning out, Mr. Flippers tucked under her arm like an oxygen tank. On the surface, it looked like a normal, cozy holiday morning. Underneath, everything felt off, tilted. I stood in the doorway between the kitchen and living room, phone in hand, staring at Uncle Lawrence's name on the screen. My thumb hovered over the call button. For years, I'd told myself it wasn't my place to pry, that our family was complicated. that Derek was stressed or going through a rough patch or doing his best. All those excuses sounded small. Now compared to the sound of Sophie's sobs echoing in my head from the night before. I stepped into my bedroom, closing the door until it was just slightly ajar. I could still hear the TV, the muffled laughter. Somehow it made me feel braver. I hit call. The phone rang twice. "Lawrence here," he answered, his voice wrapped in the faint background hum of traffic. I pictured him in his BMW, Bluetooth on, heading to check one of his investment properties. The man was never still. "Uncle Lawrence, it's Teresa," I said. My voice trembled, just a little. I forced myself to steady it. "I need the truth about seeing Derek last Christmas, all of it." He cleared his throat, a guilty man sound if I'd ever heard one. "Listen, Tess," he started slowly. "I didn't want to cause problems in the family. You know how your mother gets." "The problems already exist," I cut in. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "I'm not asking for gossip. I need facts, not family politics." There was a long pause. I imagined his fingers drumming on the steering wheel, weighing loyalty against his own conscience. "I saw him at Telluride Resort," he said at last, "with a woman, blonde, maybe 30, designer ski gear. They seemed intimate." The word sat between us like a stone. "Intimate how?" I asked, even though I already knew. "They were sharing a suite," he said. "I saw them at breakfast feeding each other French toast. Not exactly a coworker vibe." He said she was from the Westbridge account. A humorless huff of air. I've been around long enough to know the difference between business and pleasure. My hand tightened around the phone. My knuckles went white. "And you didn't think to mention this to Amanda, or Mom, or me?" I asked quietly. I wasn't shouting. Somehow that made it worse. "He swore it was a one-time thing," Lawrence said. His voice weighed down with regret. Said he was under stress from the divorce, that he'd made a mistake. He begged me not to tell anyone because it would destroy his custody arrangement. Another pause. When he spoke again, the words were softer. "I should have said something. Especially when I heard he left the kids with you again this year. I'm sorry, Tess. I failed those kids." I closed my eyes. "You're not the only one," I thought. "Thank you for telling me now," I said, because there was no point in shredding him. The guilt was already doing that. "If anyone asks, are you willing to repeat this? In writing, if needed?" Another beat. "Yes," he said. "If this is where things have gotten to, yes." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. I stared at my own reflection in the dark TV screen across from my bed. For a second, I didn't recognize the woman looking back. She looked tired, but also sharper, less willing to be smoothed over. I scrolled through my contacts and tapped another name, Amanda. The last time I'd spoken to her beyond polite small talk, she was still trying to keep her marriage from falling apart. Now she was living in London with a new husband and a life that, according to Mom, was too glamorous to be stable. The call connected on the third ring. "Tess?" she answered, breathless. There was a murmur of voices faintly in the background, then a door closing. "Is everything okay with the kids?" The question hit me right in the chest. That reflexive concern, her first instinct to think of them, not herself. "They're fine," I said quickly. "They're safe. They're with me. But there's something you should know." Silence. Just the faint sound of what might have been Big Ben chiming somewhere behind her. London. A life across an ocean. And still pulled back into Derek's orbit. "Okay," she said carefully. "What is it?" "Derek isn't on a business trip," I said. My throat felt tight. "He's never on business trips during Christmas, Amanda. Not for the past 5 years." The silence this time was heavier, thicker. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice sharpening. "He sends me photos from the office. He's told me about late-night presentations, clients. He's been dumping Sophie and Cameron with me every year while he goes on vacations with girlfriends," I said, the words tumbling out now. Plural. Girlfriends. Uncle Lawrence saw him at Telluride last Christmas. They were sharing a suite. This year, the kids mentioned a woman named Tiffany. Ski trips, resorts, all of it. "That's not," Amanda started, then stopped. I heard the moment her brain started stitching the timeline together. "Wait, 5 years? Even when we were still married?" "Yes." There was a soft, ugly curse on the other end of the line. "I stayed in London this year because he said he was planning some huge bonding Christmas," she said, voice shaking. "Hot cocoa by the fire, sledding, memories the kids will have forever. I turned down a trip to Paris with my husband's family 2 years ago so he could have extra time with them." Amanda, I'm so sorry, I said, hating how small it sounded. Don't apologize, she snapped, then exhaled tremulously. No, I'm sorry. I'm just furious. At myself. At him. At all the lies. Sophie told me she loved Christmas at Daddy's house because he was always so tired from working. I believed her. There's more, I said, staring at the blinking lights on my tree until my vision blurred. Sophie found pictures on his phone. He told her that if she told anyone, Santa wouldn't come. He used Santa to make her keep his secrets. I heard the crack in Amanda's composure, the sound of fury mixed with heartbreak. He what? She whispered. He told her Santa has a special list for kids who can't keep secrets. A harsh, ragged breath. I'm calling my lawyer tonight, she said, voice turning steel. And I'm calling your mother. She needs to know what her golden boy has been doing. I thought about Mom, sitting in her immaculate living room, framed photos of Derek's promotion on the mantle, telling everyone how proud she was of him, how he carried the family name. I'm gathering information, I said. Derek's been lying to everyone. You, the kids, our parents, me, using his children as a smokescreen so he looks like some devoted single father while he vacations with girlfriends like they're accessories. Do you have proof? Amanda asked. The lawyer's wife, part of her voice had kicked in. Texts, photos, witnesses? I have texts asking me to take the kids, I said. Photos they sent me from my guest room during Christmases when they were supposed to be with him. And now, Uncle Lawrence's statement. Plus what Sophie told us. Good, she said. Document everything. I'm going to talk to my solicitor here and to a U.S. attorney. This won't just disappear. When I hung up, my legs felt like jelly. I grabbed the back of my desk chair so I wouldn't sink to the floor. I'd always thought of myself as the peacekeeper, the fixer, the good sister who smoothed things over. Now, somehow, I was the one holding a match over years' worth of lies soaked in gasoline. Tess? Gloria's voice floated faintly through the half-open door. I've got the cookies out if you want to bring the kids over. I blinked, pulled back into the present. Coming, I called. When I stepped back into the living room, Sophie had inched closer to Cameron on the couch, both of them wrapped in the same blanket. The booby trap scene played across their faces in flickering light. Mrs. Gloria says she has gingerbread men, Cameron announced, hopeful, with sprinkles. I forced a smile. Then I think we should go help her eat them, don't you? Gloria's apartment smelled like cinnamon and vanilla and something that felt dangerously close to safety. The kids gathered around her kitchen table, intensely focused as they decorated gingerbread men with frosting tubes and silver sprinkles. Gloria moved between them like a practiced grandmother, adjusting piping bags, offering more candy, humming off-key Christmas songs. I stood at the edge of the kitchen, nursing a mug of spiced apple cider she'd pressed into my hands. So, she murmured, glancing at me over the rim of her own mug, what are you planning to do? I stared at the kids. I'm gathering information, I said. Derek's been lying to everyone, using the kids as a cover. He makes the world think he's this devoted single dad while I cancel my life to play unpaid childcare. Gloria's normally cheerful face hardened. The lines around her mouth deepened. My sister went through something similar with her ex in Connecticut, she said. The courts take holiday visitation very seriously, especially when there's a pattern of abandonment. I don't want to use the kids as pawns, I admitted. The warmth of the mug seeped into my cold fingers. I don't want them to be collateral damage in some custody war. Honey, Gloria said, her voice soft but firm, you're not using them as pawns. He is. He's already doing that. You're just trying to stop it. She set her mug down and rested a hand on my arm. Documentation is your friend here, she added. Dates, conversations, witnesses. Write down everything. Build your case. Don't rely on your memory. Emotions make things blurry. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and looked at the screen. A text from Vanessa. My cousin Patricia can meet tomorrow. Family law specialist. She's excellent. I turned the phone so Gloria could see. Go, she said immediately. I'll watch the kiddos. We'll make gingerbread houses. Proper ones. With Necco wafer shingles. Are you sure? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She snorted softly. Those two are better company than half my book club, and I like you more than your brother. Bring me back all the gossip when this blows up. I laughed, but it came out broken. That night, after the kids were asleep again, Cameron starfished across the bed, Sophie curled on her side with Mr. Flippers under her chin. I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. I started writing. 5 years of texts from Derek asking if I could do him a huge favor. 5 years of last-minute emergencies. 5 years of Christmases I'd spent in my apartment instead of with friends, with someone I loved, or just by myself. As the pages filled, the pattern came into focus. It wasn't a series of accidents. It was a system, designed by my brother, maintained by everybody's silence, including mine. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one last sentence. I am done being the escape route. The next afternoon, while Gloria turned my living room into a makeshift Christmas craft camp with paper snowflakes and popcorn garlands, I took the subway to a small cafe in Greenwich Village. Exposed brick, soft jazz, people typing on laptops like their lives depended on the next line. Patricia arrived exactly on time. She was in her late 30s, dark hair pulled into a low bun, a navy blazer over a cream sweater. She had the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter without realizing it. Teresa? She asked, offering her hand. Yes, thank you for meeting me, I said, shaking it. We sat by the window. Outside, the city moved around us, oblivious. So, she said, pulling a legal pad from her bag. Vanessa gave me a brief overview, but I'd like to hear it in your words. Start from the beginning. I told her everything. About 5 years of Christmases, about Derek's business trips, about Uncle Lawrence at Telluride, about Amanda in London, about the photos on Derek's phone, the threats about Santa, Sophie's shaking shoulders on my couch. The more I talked, the more Patricia's pen moved. This pattern of behavior is concerning, she said finally, looking up, especially the part where he uses the children as cover for personal vacations and threatens them into keeping secrets. That's not just irresponsibility. That's psychological manipulation. A part of me wanted to defend him, to say, he's not all bad, he's just stressed. That reflex had been conditioned into me for 32 years. I swallowed it. What can I do? I asked instead. He's their father. Courts favor keeping both parents involved, right? Courts prefer to maintain parental relationships, she said, but they prioritize the children's well-being above all else. What we have here is potentially a pattern of abandonment combined with emotional coercion. That matters. She ticked items off on her fingers as she spoke. You have texts asking you to take the kids during his court-ordered time. You have photos of the children at your place for multiple Christmases. You have a witness who saw him at a resort during one of these supposed business trips. You have the ex-wife who was misled about his whereabouts. My notebook lay open on the table between us, my scribbled timeline framing her words. Is it enough for an emergency custody modification? I asked. Possibly, she said, especially if the children corroborate feeling abandoned or being threatened into silence. But first, she leaned in, lowering her voice. You need to confront him directly when he returns. Record the conversation if your state allows it. Is that legal? I asked. New York is a one-party consent state, she said. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's lawful. Give him a chance to explain, or more likely, to incriminate himself further. A bitter little laugh escaped me. He'll just lie, I said. He's had 5 years of practice. Then the recording will capture that too, Patricia replied calmly. His minimization, his refusal to acknowledge harm, any physical aggression if it appears again. Documentation, Teresa, everything by the book. She slid a business card across the table. Her name, her firm, her email. Call me after you speak with him, she said. Stay calm. Stick to facts. Focus on the children's welfare, not your inconvenience. Judges respond to child welfare concerns, not sibling disputes. On the way home, the subway car rattled around me, fluorescent lights humming overhead. I watched my reflection in the window, my face superimposed over the tunnel walls flashing by. I barely recognized the woman staring back. She didn't look like the eternally accommodating sister anymore. She looked like someone with a plan. Derek didn't come back on the 26th. He didn't come back on the 27th either. On the evening of the 28th, my phone finally rang. His name flashed across the screen. I answered. Hey, Tess, he said, sounding relaxed, maybe a little too loud, like he was standing near a bar. In the background, I heard clinking glasses, laughter, music, the muffled acoustics of a resort lobby. Slight change of plans. Flight was overbooked. I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. I looked at the kids, sitting at my coffee table drawing snowmen with crayons, oblivious. The kids miss you, I said. My voice was neutral, almost pleasant. Practice for what came next. I miss them too, he said. Been working nonstop on this account. You're the best sister ever, you know that? I said. We'll see you tomorrow then. When I hung up, I walked to the bookshelf in my bedroom and set my phone up against a stack of paperbacks, angling the camera toward the doorway where Derek would stand. I hit record just to test the angle. The empty frame stared back at me. "Next time you walk through that door," I whispered into the quiet room, "you are not walking into the old version of me." I stopped the recording, checked the framing, and set everything back in place. Tomorrow, Derek was coming to pick up his children. He had no idea I was done making his messes look like love. December 29th arrived, wrapped in a false stillness. It was one of those winter mornings when the sun looks bright, but everything feels cold anyway, like the world is pretending, just like Derek always had. Sophie and Cameron ate breakfast quietly at my kitchen counter. Toast, scrambled eggs, sliced strawberries arranged in a little heart on Sophie's plate because she liked them that way. "Is Dad coming today?" Cameron asked, swinging his feet lightly against the stool. "Yes," I said gently. "He said he'll be here this afternoon." Sophie didn't look up. She kept slicing her strawberries into smaller and smaller pieces, like she was trying to make them disappear. My heart twisted. I cleaned the dishes slowly, stalling, listening for any sign of excitement from them. There was none. Children shouldn't dread seeing their own father. At noon, Gloria knocked on my door. She wore a red sweater with a lopsided reindeer on it and held a tray of gingerbread cookies. "I figured the kids might want a treat," she said before lowering her voice. "You ready for today?" "As ready as I'll ever be." She touched my shoulder. "You're doing the right thing, Teresa. Don't let guilt tell you otherwise." Guilt! It had been sitting in my chest like a stone since the moment I decided to record Derek. Even knowing everything he'd done, some part of me hated that it had come to this, that I, the younger sibling, was about to expose him. But then I remembered Sophie whispering that Santa wouldn't come if she told anyone his secrets. I remembered Cameron begging Derek to build gingerbread houses, a promise broken year after year. I remembered 5 Christmases spent convincing children that their father loved them, even when he couldn't be bothered to spend a single holiday morning with them. The guilt didn't disappear, but it sharpened into purpose. By 3 o'clock, the kids were back in my living room, drawing snowmen and candy canes, while Gloria supervised. I was in my bedroom, adjusting the angle of my phone for the 10th time. Patricia's voice echoed in my mind. "Focus on facts, stay calm, let him reveal himself." I checked the angle again. Camera aimed at the door. Audio crisp. Perfect. For a split second, I wondered whether Derek would even show. Then, at 3:42 p.m., the elevator dinged. My pulse spiked. The knock came moments later, quick, confident, entitled, like someone who assumed being welcome was a birthright. I opened the door. There he was, tanned, relaxed, wearing a brand new ski jacket he definitely did not have before Christmas. His cheeks were flushed with mountain air, and his smile was the same practiced one he'd given me for years. "Hey, superstar," he said, stepping forward to hug me. I angled my body so he couldn't get close. "We need to talk," I said, privately. His eyebrows flicked up. "Ooh, sounds serious," he chuckled, loosening his scarf. "What? Did the little monsters drive you insane?" I didn't answer. I simply walked toward my bedroom, leaving the door open just enough so the camera could see us walk inside. He followed, still half smirking. The moment the door clicked shut, the air shifted. "What's going on, Tess?" he asked, dropping his resort smile. "You look intense." I met his eyes, steady. "Where were you this Christmas, Derek?" He didn't blink. "I told you the Westbridge account. Big push at the end of the year. Presentations, meetings." "Stop lying." The words cut through the air like a blade. He froze. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I know you were at Copper Mountain," I said. "I know about Tiffany. I know you haven't spent Christmas with your kids in 5 years. And I know you threatened Sophie to keep quiet." A fissure cracked across his expression. Shock, then anger, then a glimmer of fear, all in one flicker. "Tess, what the hell are you talking about?" he said, voice sharp. "Who told you that? Sophie? She's a child. Kids misunderstand things." "I talked to Uncle Lawrence," I replied. "He saw you at Telluride last year, sharing a suite, feeding a woman breakfast." Derek's jaw flexed. "That was different," he snapped. "Lawrence drinks, okay? He probably got mixed up. Besides, I didn't want to ruin Christmas by dumping adult issues on the family." I laughed. A small, bitter laugh that startled even me. "You didn't want to ruin Christmas?" I repeated quietly. "You've been ruining it for 5 years. For your children." He rolled his eyes, scoffing. "Oh, please, they were safe. With you. They love you. I work hard all year. Don't I deserve some downtime? It's not abandonment, Tess. It's called balance." "You threatened Sophie," I said. "Told her Santa wouldn't come if she told anyone." He opened his mouth, then shut it again. Finally, he shrugged. "It was a harmless white lie. Parents use Santa all the time." "She's not your pawn," I said. "Neither is Cameron." His expression twisted. Something uglier bubbled up through the cracks. "You always do this," he spat. You twist things. You're jealous. You don't have kids. You don't have a husband. You don't have anything going on in your life, so you cling to mine. My breath caught, but I held my ground. This isn't about me, I said slowly. This is about what you keep doing to them. The lies, the secrecy, the manipulation. And you think you're some kind of saint? He sneered. Playing babysitter? Fixing everything? Making yourself look good while tearing me down? I didn't tear anything down, I said. You did. He stepped closer, crowding my space. You think you can turn my kids against me? Turn Amanda against me? You think you're the hero? His voice dropped into something darker. You have no idea what you've started. Before I could answer, the bedroom door cracked open. Sophie stood there, Cameron behind her, eyes wide. Is it true? Sophie whispered, her voice trembling. You weren't working? You were with Tiffany again? Derek straightened instantly, softening his tone. Sweetheart, grown-up relationships are complicated. You promised, Sophie cried. You said this Christmas would be different. You always say that. She burst into tears. He reached for her, but she stepped back, shaking. Then Derek's frustration snapped like a rubber band. We're leaving, he barked. He grabbed Cameron by the arm. Derek, stop, I said, stepping forward. Don't take it out on them. They're my kids, he roared. Not yours. You don't get to play mommy just because you couldn't keep a man long enough to have your own. The words hit me like a slap. I stood frozen, just long enough for Cameron to whimper. You're hurting me. Something inside me detonated. I grabbed my phone, still recording, and held it up. Let him go, I said, my voice shaking but deadly calm, or I'm calling the police. He dropped Cameron's arm instantly, not because he cared, but because he finally realized I wasn't bluffing. Right then, Derek's phone rang. He glanced down. Amanda. His face went pale. Amanda, I can explain, he began. Whatever she said, he didn't interrupt. His face drained, his jaw clenched. When he hung up, he glared at me with a look so full of hatred it could have cracked glass. You've ruined everything, he hissed. My relationship, my family, everything. Then he pointed at the kids. This isn't over. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. For a moment, the only sound was Sophie's sobbing. I exhaled slowly and dialed Patricia. When she answered, I didn't wait. It's Teresa, I said. We need that emergency custody modification. Now. The morning of the emergency custody hearing felt colder than any winter I could remember. Maybe it was the frost crusted over the courthouse steps. Maybe it was the knot of fear twisting in my stomach. Or maybe it was the knowledge that, after today, nothing in our family would ever be the same. Gloria arrived at my apartment at dawn, bundled in a puffy coat and carrying a thermos of peppermint tea. I'll watch the kids, she said softly as the elevator opened. You go do what needs doing. Sophie clung to me for a long moment before we left. Will Dad be there? She whispered. Yes, I said honestly, but you won't be alone, I promise. Her eyes were glassy, but she nodded. Cameron squeezed my hand, small and trusting. As Gloria ushered them back inside, I forced myself to turn away. The courthouse loomed like a stone fortress, tall columns, heavy doors, frigid marble floors that echoed every nervous footstep. Patricia was already waiting by security, briefcase in hand. You ready? She asked, eyes steady. No, not at all. Yes, I said. We walked upstairs, each step sounding sharper than the last. Halfway down the hallway, Amanda appeared. She looked exhausted. No makeup, hair in a loose bun, deep shadows beneath her eyes, but determination radiated off her like heat. She strode toward me and gripped my hands. Thank you, she whispered, for protecting them when I couldn't. Before I could answer, Derek appeared at the opposite end of the hallway. His face was red, jaw clenched tight, hair uncombed. He looked like a man who'd barely slept, and blamed everyone but himself for it. He glared at me. If looks could shatter glass, the entire hallway would have collapsed. His lawyer, a slick man in a navy suit, pulled him aside to whisper something urgently. Derek didn't take his eyes off me. Patricia leaned in. Do not engage with him. We let the evidence speak. I nodded, throat tight. When the courtroom doors opened, we filed inside. Judge Hernandez sat behind a polished oak bench, glasses perched low on her nose. She had the kind of presence that could silence a room with a blink. This is an emergency petition for temporary custody modification, the clerk announced. Patricia stood. Your Honor, we are requesting immediate intervention due to a 5-year pattern of abandonment during court-ordered visitation periods, emotional manipulation of the children, and escalating behavior when confronted. Derek's lawyer rose with a smooth smile. Your Honor, this is a family disagreement that has spiraled due to miscommunication. My client has every right to arrange childcare with relatives during his custodial time. Arranging childcare? Judge Hernandez repeated, unimpressed. Or abandoning the children under false pretenses? She turned to Patricia. Proceed. Patricia handed over a binder of documents, screenshots of texts from Derek, photos of the kids at my apartment over multiple Christmases, a timeline I'd written, and a summary of Uncle Lawrence's testimony. Then she called Lawrence himself. He walked to the stand, shoulders tight, looking anywhere but at Derek. Mr. Ellington, Patricia began, did you witness Derek Ellington at the Telluride ski resort last year during Christmas? Yes, he said, voice steady. He was with a woman. They shared a suite. It did not appear to be business-related. Did he tell you he was supposed to be with his children at that time? Yes. Did he ask you to keep his whereabouts secret? Lawrence hesitated, shame darkening his expression. Yes. Derek's face flushed an angry, mottled red. Next, Patricia submitted a statement Amanda had written and signed the night she flew back from London. It detailed every Christmas Derek claimed he had special bonding plans, but never followed through. But the moment that changed everything came when the judge asked, Where is the older child, Sophie Ellington? My breath caught. She's waiting in the witness room, Patricia said. Judge Hernandez nodded to her bailiff. Have her brought to my chambers. I'll speak with her privately. Derek leaned forward sharply. Your Honor, she's just a child. She might say whatever her aunt told her to. Sit down, Mr. Ellington, the judge said without looking at him. If you speak out of turn again, I'll hold you in contempt. The bailiff led Sophie away. I didn't breathe. Amanda covered her mouth with her hand. Derek looked like he might explode. The wait was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Every second stretched tight, punctuated only by lawyers whispering, heels clicking on marble floors, the distant groan of courthouse pipes. Then the judge returned. Her expression had changed, hardened. She adjusted her glasses and spoke. I have heard enough. Silence fell like snow. I find that Mr. Ellington has engaged in a sustained pattern of misrepresentation, neglect, and emotional coercion of his children. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that his priority during holiday visitation has been personal leisure, not parental duty. Derek's lawyer muttered, Your Honor. She raised a hand. I am granting temporary full custody to Ms. Thompson, she said firmly. Mr. Ellington will receive supervised visitation only, pending a full hearing. Derek shot to his feet. This is ridiculous. They're my children. Sit down, the judge ordered. One more outburst and I will have you removed. He froze, chest heaving, eyes burning into me like he wanted to incinerate me on the spot. But it was over. The truth had landed. And for the first time in 5 years, the kids were safe. Outside the courtroom, Derek stormed toward me, jabbing a finger at my face. This is all your fault, he hissed. You've always been jealous, bitter, alone. You used my kids to make yourself look like a hero. Amanda stepped between us like a shield. The only person who did this, she said coldly, is you, Derek. For a moment I thought he'd strike her. His hand twitched. Then he sagged. Amanda, please, I made a mistake. Everyone deserves a second chance. Her eyes didn't soften. This wasn't your second chance, she said quietly. It was your 6th. You won't get a 7th. She took a step back, and Derek's expression collapsed into something hollow. He turned on me one last time. I hope you're happy, he spat. No, I said softly, but I am done enabling you. 3 months later, we met at a small bistro in the West Village, me, Vanessa, and Gloria, all crowded around a little wooden table, bathed in soft winter sunlight. We toasted with glasses of wine as I told them. Amanda got primary custody, supervised visits twice a month for Derek. He's already missed 3. Gloria shook her head. That man couldn't show up for a golden platter if someone carried him to it. I smiled, but felt the familiar ache of loss tugging at me. He hasn't spoken to me since the hearing, I admitted. Not once. Good, Vanessa said. Peace is priceless. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Mom's birthday dinner Saturday. She wants you there. Time to put this behind us. Family is family. I stared at it, then typed one word. No. I hit send. The screen dimmed. The world felt suddenly, beautifully quiet. I exhaled. Next Christmas, I said, setting down my phone, I'm taking the kids to Disney World with Amanda and her husband. We're starting new traditions. And Derek? Vanessa asked. I shook my head gently. He made his choice, I said, and I finally made mine. I looked out the window at the falling snow. Sometimes the most powerful word in the world is 2 letters long. Sometimes saying no isn't cruelty. It's self-respect, protection, love. I raised my glass. To boundaries, I said. Gloria clinked hers against mine. To new traditions. And for once, I believed every word.